Welcome to Future Ready Live, where we talk about topics that will help CPAs, CGMAs, and their organizations prepare to adapt and thrive in a fast-changing world. I'm your host, Tom Hood, the EVP of Business Engagement and Growth at the AICPA CIMA, the largest global body of professional certified accountants in the world. Today, we're going to be talking about a super hot topic. I'm calling this Conquering FOBO. That's right, FOBO, fear of becoming obsolete, by keeping your L greater than C, or hashtag RPD, thanks to our friend Tom Peters. In other words, developing your own personal knowledge network to stay ahead of the waves of transformation that we're all feeling. Joining me is a repeat guest and good friend, Don Tomoff, CPA, MBA. He's cracking the code on keeping your L greater than C squared with a robot, Gen AI, by your side. He's a ChatGPT wizard, obsessed with using technology for exponential increases in productivity. He's one of our top gun instructors at our Business Learning Institute, and I'm proud to call him a friend. Over 30 years of broad accounting, finance, and consulting experience, including Big 8, public accounting, and broad industry exposure, manufacturing, retail, nonprofit, and consulting. Currently, he's providing consulting services to executives and organizations ranging from closely held held companies to publicly traded organizations. At Invenio Advisors, he's focused on helping companies think differently, which manifests itself in many ways to drive improvement and gain effectiveness in managing a client's business. He works to connect the dots to drive improvement in productivity, which is not as intuitive as it may appear. Consulting services he provides includes technology integration consulting, speaking engagements, business integration, use development, and executive training, data analytics, technology tools, and advanced training, MS Office, Adobe. He's a Power BI expert as well, and then now ChatGPT and generative AI. Don, say hello to our audience.
Thank you, Tom. Hello, everyone. Great to be here with you again. Such an honor.
It's an honor to have you back, as a matter of fact. So, little context as we start 2024 and the unbelievable speed of change fueled by ChatGPT. There's this new term, FOBO. I already talked about it, fear of becoming obsolete. I love that. It's just not FOMO, FOBO. And that reminded me of a tweet by Tom Peters from literally 10 years ago on 1/1/2014, where he coined the term radical personal development, or hashtag RPD, which inspired our L greater than C squared, or learning greater than the rate of change and the rate of competition. So it made me think of you because you're a big fan of Tom Peters.
Yep.
We connected on LinkedIn and Twitter a long time ago. I've known you for what, 10 plus years?
Yeah, 10 years, yeah.
Probably just about that time. So AICPA CIMA, you've been part of our Future of Finance Leadership Advisory Group, where our purpose is to transform the profession by reimagining the future of finance to power trust, opportunity, and prosperity. Let's start with your insights and takeaways from our Future of Finance Summit not too long ago in December of this year.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And I'll make one observation, Tom. When you were doing my intro, we talk about thinking differently. And when I put that started my company, that was one of the things that I emphasized. Now more than ever, that's absolutely true. And the conference, the Future of Finance Summit, I think is a perfect example of that happening. Okay. So my observations, one, it was, I got to present with Glenn Hopper on AI, and we followed Gartner. So that for me, that was the highlight conference of the year, not just from the standpoint of that session, but the people we got to engage with, the topics that were covered. It's just a different level of conference than folks would be used to.
Yeah, I mean, I love the way we've designed it, which is very much workshop based. So it's not, it might be a keynote, but then there's a working session and people are figuring out, how do I take this back? And plus we had what, case studies by Verizon,
Yep.
Disney, Sound Exchange,
Yep.
along with some great big Gen AI stuff, Gartner and you guys. I mean, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, and you bring up Disney and Sound Exchange. I didn't get to go to all the sessions, but the sessions that hit me were the pre-conference with Kimberly Allison Taylor and talking about boards, and the Disney and Sound Exchange, because you hear about digital transformation. These guys were talking about what they've done.
Yeah.
And it was pretty fascinating to translate what you read all the time into, okay, that's what these guys are doing. It was great.
Yeah, that's what I love about this group, right? It's like by the group for the group. They help us pick what the agenda is. They select the topics. They often help speak.
Yeah.
And it's an ongoing, this is our third year doing it. We doubled the prior year. We had over 150 folks there. So it was really rewarding. I was honored. I obviously have you guys there. We'll definitely be having you back some more. I mean, you did the session in the summer when Gen AI came up and you rocked them then. So
yeah.
Awesome.
And it just keeps getting faster. You talk about the rate of learning, keeping learning faster than the pace of change. I'm starting to believe that's not possible. We're riding the wave, as you like to say, and man, it's just not stopping.
Well, that's what you're here for, to give us some tips and talk about. We're going to work on developing a course with you about how to really do this in a big way, because you and I both believe in this idea of a personal knowledge network. But you go a little deeper into your session with Glenn Hopper on Gen AI for finance organizations. What did you hear from the audience and the Gartner session before yours?
What was really fascinating, I'm glad you segued into that, sitting in the Gartner session, which I thought was fantastic because they presented it from, this is what CFOs need to be considering. Your stakeholders, your boards are going to be expecting X, Y, Z. So very much a not hands-on in the trenches type of discussion, but thought-provoking. And I was talking to people at our table, the table I was at, and it was interesting where some hadn't done. There's a lot of fear about, the things that could happen.
Yeah.
Right. And then there were people that were, I'm using it to do everything. Okay. And it was fascinating. So then Glenn and I, and as you mentioned, it was a workshop. We really just did two examples where we said, Glenn did some financial analysis of a Form 10K, which was fantastic, just demonstrating how easy that was. And I believe I talked about the personal document analysis GPT, which ties right into personal knowledge management, network, etc.
Well, you have a whole system about how you do that, which we're going to ultimately build out a course to help train people how to do that. But it's
right.
I can't even keep up with you. That's the crazy part. You're a wild man. So
Tom, think about, and I would just pose this question to you because you're obviously so prolific in getting content out. I always say, if you want to try and understand how it is to keep up with stuff, follow Tom, and we've talked about your tweets in the past, your LinkedIn, the white papers from the AICPA, BLI, just that is coming from everywhere. And you need to have a process to, how do I harness that?
Yeah.
Okay. And LinkedIn is a perfect example. That one's a tough one because LinkedIn locks down so much stuff.
Yes.
Okay. And it's just, you got to have a process. And ever since we had talked about this a little while back, I've been kind of mentally keeping track of what are my steps that by this point in my process, they're automatic. Okay. And you take them for granted. And I go, oh, okay, maybe that's not so taken for granted. And the impact of Gen AI in accelerating, like making sense out of information.
Yeah. That's what I love about it, right? When you throw you get a big white paper from Gartner or a white paper from our Future Finance, and you get to throw it in Chat GPT, the PDF thing, and it suddenly gives you a quick summary. Then you can query it. It's insane. What the power of all that stuff is. So, but yeah. So now let's get to the whole idea of this personal knowledge network. So I love the quote I used by John Kabat-Zinn that says, "You can't stop the waves, but you can learn how to surf.
Yep.
And we know the waves of transformation are getting bigger and coming faster, and we need to learn how to ride them. So I look at you as helping us having surf lessons about all this, right? How do we track all this stuff and like curate it and find it to make it searchable so that we can go and call it up when we want to. So
Yeah,
I know you call it, it's a term of art right now, right? A PKM, or personal knowledge
management. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And I think you follow the two people that I follow a lot in this space are Harold Jarsch, which I believe you follow,
yes.
and Tiago Forte.
Okay.
Okay. And they talk about the concept of a second brain, etc. I mean, in a nutshell, and obviously you could fill a day with this. The idea is that if I see something now, very quickly, it's somewhere where I can retrieve it if I need it. Okay. It's not like going to sit in email or sit on a web browser or something like that,
Yeah.
and then you start breaking that down into all the different things that come across your stream every day. And it quickly, you need, well, one, you need a process to organize it. And as you mentioned, being able to search it is becoming absolutely critical.
It's about searching and finding, because I know I've got, hundreds of freaking white papers on my drives and stuff. And then you go, wait a minute, which was the one that really had that quote or that big piece of data that I really. So it is about how can you retrieve it when you need it, because you don't have time to read it all in the moment. It's like watching a stock ticker.
Yep.
And the idea is how can you plug those pieces, get them into your database, which is what you're going to ultimately teach us on that notion. So,
Yeah.
All right. So tell us more about this idea of a PKM and learning, and a little bit about what you think. So yeah, Harold Jarsch is a great one. So Tiago Forte is a new one for me. I'm going to have to get on that.
True. He goes way back, and you're an Evernote user, I believe, right?
Yes.
He
Yep.
goes way back on, I believe, Evernote and how to use that as part of your knowledge management process. And you can get into all the tools. It's really about, how do I see something, curate it, and get it saved so I can call it later when I need to share it ultimately, or retrieve it, like you said. But a perfect example would be, think about you want to automate as much as possible. That's like my first thing. Actually, my first thing, Tom, and you'll love this, is I always ask people, I go, do you have a password manager, and are you trying desperately to kill email? Because those are the two things that will blow up. If you don't have those, you got problems from the standpoint of trying to keep up.
Yeah.
Okay. But what I was going to say is automating as much as possible. So like, we've talked about your tweets. There's certain people I follow, and I use an automation tool. Every time they tweet, that tweet gets captured in a spreadsheet. Okay. And that, it's a Google spreadsheet, and it's there. So every time you tweet, it's getting captured. I don't see it. I just know that I want that as a repository to go back and search in time. So what pieces of what we see can we automate? Okay. That's like step one, because you can't touch everything.
So, all right, now while we're talking about this, let's talk about the 100-hour rule. I know you're a big fan of that. I am too, but I think it comes from Seth Godin, and I'm a fan of Seth as well. So yeah, talk a little bit about that and how you see that playing to this whole idea of personal knowledge management.
Well, and that really, where it really hit me, and knowledge management is a good use case of it, is the idea is that if you invest 100 hours in learning or trying to change something, at the end of 100 hours, you will have an asset to your benefit that very few people have. And that's true. And when we were originally talking about it a while back, it came up as part of when Gen AI came out. If you invest 100 hours, if you take 3 months and invest 100 hours, you're not going to believe how far down the road you're going to get relative to, from a career perspective. It's going to change the way you work. So it really resonates with me, because you can't just put in 100 hours.
Right.
It's like, okay, let's spend 15 minutes a day. We're all busy, so how do we capture, how do we do this and learn and grow at 15 to 30 minutes a day.
And you've been doing that. I mean, I remember when it first came out, you and I were talking, and you said, I'm going to start this, every day I'm going to do this like 15-minute thing. And for all of you out there, you need to follow Don Tomoff on LinkedIn. That's where he's most prolific, but he's also on Twitter, I think, right? And but he posts like literally hands-on exercises with Chat GPT. He's got a number. What number lesson are you on now?
As soon as we get there, 1,200 will be probably tomorrow.
Oh
no, I don't know. Actually, I don't know when it'll be, but we're through 1199.
Wow, that's incredible. So follow him on LinkedIn. You'll get all his tips. You can't go wrong with that. But that gets to your point. And I don't know that I was religiously doing that. I did as many as I can.
Yeah.
But I've also done some other things on the side to help get me up to speed on that. But you're exactly right. That's how we keep our rate of learning greater than the rate of change. And by the way, it also gets the notion of collaboration. That's why we call it a personal knowledge network. I've got people that I follow, like Harold Jarsch and Peters and Seth Godin and Don Tomoff and Glenn Hopper. Those are my network. And I truly say, if you put me on a deserted island with an iPhone and internet connectivity, I could keep track of all the important things I need to and learn what I needed to know just by my network.
Yep.
And but again, you got to get good at, and I'm still not where you are. You're like the master of how you curate it and make it automated, because that would help me a lot from that standpoint. So
what's really interesting is think about, and I just had a conversation recently where, everybody thinks of LinkedIn, and I think I did a post on this a little while ago about LinkedIn isn't just a career search tool.
Right.
Okay. It is a knowledge tool.
Yes.
I mean, the people that are sharing information, I mean, stop number one.
Yes.
If you're a professional, get on LinkedIn and get connected with people that are thought leaders in the kind of things that you want to understand. And by the way, number one, Tom Hood, if you're in accounting. Okay. So it's being religious that you get out there. We talk about the 100-hour rule. Get out on LinkedIn and get content, see people, comment on people, build relationships. It's all the stuff you're an expert at, Tom.
Make your network, build your network, and you're the people, and then you can like reach right out to people and get them to come back to me. That's how you and I at first, I think, got connected. And next thing you know, you're working with us. You're one of our Top Gun instructors. We're and here we are getting ready to create this personal knowledge management deal with you. So it's exciting. It's really but that's exactly what it is. It is about the network. And so all right, let's get to closing now. What else do you want to cover? What's your final words of wisdom for our audience?
Well, you touched on that. First, I wanted to come back to the conference. Okay, I think that is just outstanding, and I know you guys are building it. But I've been to a few of them, and you build connections and network in real time with real people.
Yeah.
Okay, so people I've met at the conference, we're still in touch, and they're especially active on the social side. So it's like it's a different level of professional that you encounter.
These are CFOs on social media, right? That's
that's exactly right.
I mean, the number of selfies, the number of people posting was incredible, right? So once we got them going, it was pretty wild.
Well, I think you're the one that set the trend on that. Tom made it okay to take group selfies. Okay. But that and the idea of this rate of change is we're looking at, and I especially, like you talked about, I'm especially focused on the Gen AI. And I just, one of my courses is AI powered Excel. Okay. And now we're talking knowledge management. Every course I do now is going to weave in Gen AI and ChatGPT or Bing or Gemini, the new term for Bard, because it's critical to how we work.
Yeah.
If I was to do Excel training and not say, hey, you can write these formulas in 15 seconds instead of banging your head against the wall, I wouldn't be doing you any favors.
Yeah.
Okay. So every course is kind of morphing into a little bit of Gen AI in everything we do. Yeah. And I think that's continuing. So you talk about the rate of change. all these, there's different models out now. It's impossible to keep up with, but figure out how it applies to us and apply it.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, you can make sure you follow our hashtag Future of Finance, all one word. That's where we'll be doing updates about this conference and everything else. It's going to be in actually San Diego this coming December. I think it'll be like the 10th or 11th through the 13th.
But let me give you one tip there, Tom. You just mentioned Future of Finance hashtag. So that's on Twitter, right?
Twitter and LinkedIn.
Right. Use an automation tool. IFTTT, if this, then that is one of my favorites. And tell it every time that hashtag gets used to put it into a spreadsheet. Now you've got every single item that gets tweeted related to Future of Finance.
Yeah.
It's a great automation example.
That's awesome. And good tip right there. So yeah, this is why we love this guy, right? He's gonna help us figure out how to ride these waves. So I think the other part that you're a big fan of is you say it 100 times, which is just start. Like, I like to say this is like CFOs and social media, right? I like to say they used to think of it like a rattlesnake. They want to look at it, but they don't want to touch it. Right. Gen AI is now fitting that category, right? I understand. I want to look at it, but I don't know that I'm ready to try it.
Right.
And your point is follow Don and just take one of his tips and go do it, right? Automate something in Excel.
And Tom, there was a gentleman at the Future of Finance conference in our session that brought up, and I thought this was really spot on. He said, I started to use it for work. I didn't really get it. He goes, but then I used it for my personal stuff. He goes, and then it went off, and he figured out how to apply it to work, etc.
Yeah. Use it to plan a vacation, or use it to ask some complex question you're thinking about, and get going with it. So this is awesome. What a great way to spend a little bit of time with you, Mr. Tomoff. And
I appreciate it.
We're looking forward to your program. By the way, you can find more of his courses on our website at blionline.org. And you just look up the author, Don Tomoff. You'll see a lot of his courses that we run. For more with him, follow him on LinkedIn. And his hashtag is Twins Talk. He's got a twin brother, if you can imagine that. And they put out some really good stuff. TWINZ Talk, all one word. Follow him on Twitter at DTomoffCPA. And he's got a blog on Medium, also at DTomoffCPA. So that's how you can track him. And if you want to follow, if you want to connect to him, it's Don at Invenio Advisors LLC. We'll put that in the show notes as in the chat. So with that, I just want to say thank you for joining me. Thank you, our audience, for joining us. And don't miss other Future Ready live sessions back here on LinkedIn the first and third Tuesday of each month at noon Eastern. Thanks again, Don, for being here.
Thanks, Tom. And as you said just a few seconds ago, just start.
Just start. Let's do it.
All right. Thank you.